Hi. So, welcome everyone. So, today's webinar it's about effective communication with faculty. Today's speaker is Dr. Clark Egnor. He's the director of at West Virginia Higher Education Policy Commission. Okay, so today he will be in charge of the webinar. And well, Clark, the floor is yours.
Okay, hello everybody. I am coming to you from Huntington, West Virginia, and I'll talk a little bit about West Virginia in a minute, but I'm in the United States and I understand that you are in Mexico and that you are all students who are going to apply to study at graduate schools in the United States and that you are preparing for that experience, which will begin a year from now. So it's a process. So congratulations on that and making this decision to study in the U.S. So I want to talk a little bit about me, introduce myself, and what I'm going to be talking about today. So my name is Clark. You can call me Clark. And I've been working in international education for over 25 years. Um, I've been a teacher, an advisor, and an administrator. I'm currently director of international programs at the public higher education system. So I work with universities all over the state of West Virginia. And so during this past 20, it's actually over 30 years. I've been saying 25 years for the past 5 years, but I've been working in this field for 30 years. And during that time, I have helped thousands of students like you from around the world pursue their academic goals in the United States. And I've also studied abroad myself in Japan when I was younger and during my undergraduate days. And then just in the past 10 years, I studied in Mexico, studied Spanish at UNAM in Mexico City. And I've also lived and worked and taught in Mexico. So I have some understanding of Mexico and the culture. And because of my study abroad experiences, I understand how exciting and sometimes challenging it can be to study in another country, especially at the graduate level. And I have a master's degree myself, and I have a doctorate. So I've had the same experience that you're going to be having in the United States. So let me Okay, so the purpose of this session today is to help you feel more prepared and confident about about a very important part of your graduate school journey, communicating with your professors. In the US, professors are not just teachers. They are also your mentors, research advisors, and guides. And they can help you shape your academic and professional future. But communicating with them may be different than what you're used to in Mexico. Now, much of my career has focused on helping international students succeed in US universities, not just with applications and admissions, but with the cultural and academic adjustments that they face once they arrive. I've led orientation programs, supported graduate students through research and thesis work, and I've worked closely with faculty members. So the topic that we're going to discuss today, how to communicate effectively with professors in U.S. graduate programs, is one that I've had the chance to see from many different perspectives. As a faculty member myself, as an advisor supporting students, and as a program leader designing support systems across multiple universities. So in this session, I'll share some practical tips and real examples to help you understand the role of faculty in U.S. graduate education, learn communication strategies to communicate clearly, respectfully and directly, gain confidence as international students so that you can ask for help when needed, advocate for yourself with confidence, and build strong, lasting relationships with your professors. And most importantly, I want to emphasize that your voice matters in US academia. You bring perspectives, strengths, and experiences that your professors may not initially see, but they are incredibly valuable in graduate level education. So thank you for being here today, and I hope this session helps you to feel more confident and better prepared for your exciting journey ahead. So let me, I know that you're all going to be applying for graduate study. And you're going to be looking at universities all over the United States. But I want you to consider studying in West Virginia. And this is a picture of our beautiful state. We have wonderful, we call it the mountain state because the whole state is mountains and it's green in the summer. And the leaves turn colors in the fall and it snows a little bit in the winter. Now you can see our location. We're within driving distance of Washington, D.C., um, a little further away, New York City, Chicago, and you can even travel to these cities by train. Um, and I represent 11 high quality, affordable public universities in West Virginia. So these are the names of the universities. Why is somebody pushing that ahead, or is it for some reason the slides are moving forward. Shoot, I'm sorry. So the about half of these universities have graduate programs, and like Marshall University and West Virginia University have the most master's and doctorate programs, but most of these universities have some master's programs. And but overall, our 11 universities offer over 500 undergraduate, graduate, and doctoral degree programs, and over 2,500 international students uh, from over 120 countries study in West Virginia. So I hope that one day you can be one of those international students in West Virginia. Okay, so uh, so why does faculty communication matter? Why is it important? Let's talk about that. Um, First, professors in the US, they don't just teach your classes. They often serve as mentors, academic advisors, and even research supervisors. So as your teacher, they expect active participation in the class. They expect critical thinking. Classes are often a lot smaller than undergraduate classes, and you may be expected to lead discussions or present your own work. The professors also evaluate your performance, your progress in the class, and they give you grades and they write recommendation letters. So that's similar to teachers at the undergraduate level. But at the graduate level, they are also more of a mentor and they serve as your faculty advisor, and they will help you with choosing the right courses, planning your academic path, and balancing research, classes, and work. So you're going to have a lot more intimate relationship with your professors probably than you would at the undergraduate level. The professors also they also are involved in the admission process, unlike the undergraduate professors. The professors at the graduate level make decisions about who is admitted to their programs. And you're going to be more involved in research at the graduate level, and the professors will supervise your research. So you'll likely have to write a thesis or a dissertation, usually a thesis at the master's degree level or a dissertation at the doctoral level. And the advisor, the faculty member, will help you choose a research topic They'll guide your research process. They'll give you feedback on your writing. They'll lead your defense committee or your thesis committee when you present your final project. And your professors um, may also serve as a kind of professional guide by helping you find internships, jobs, or research opportunities, applying for scholarships or fellowships, building a network in your academic or professional field, or helping you to publish your work or presenting at a conference. So in graduate school, your relationship with the faculty can be one of the most important parts of your academic experience. So the better you communicate with them, the more support and guidance you're likely to receive. Second, your communication with faculty can directly impact your grades, your research opportunities, and even your career path. For example, a professor might invite you to work on a research project, write you a strong letter of recommendation, or connect you with job opportunities. But that's only if you build a strong relationship, a professional relationship with them. And finally, and we're going to talk about this, it's important to recognize that there are some cultural differences between the US and Mexico when it comes to how students and professors interact. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about those differences, and I'm going to give you an opportunity to discuss, not just at the end of my presentation, but while we're together. Because if you disagree with some of my opinions about how Mexico and the US are different with regard to faculty communication, then please, raise your hand and let me know. I'd like to hear your opinion. Um, that's okay to disagree with me. Uh, in Mexico, my experience has been that communication with professors can be more formal and hierarchical. In the US, however, graduate students are expected to be more direct and proactive. So it's okay and even expected that you will ask questions, request clarification, share your ideas, and even respectfully disagree at times. And this is seen as a sign of engagement. It's not considered disrespect to have this kind of direct communication with your professors. So understanding these expectations and adjusting your communication style can make a big difference in and how your professors perceive you and how effectively you navigate your graduate program. Okay. All right. So um, this is this question, think of a time that you reached out to a teacher or mentor and what made it successful or challenging. And I don't think any of you have had experience. I'm not sure. Have any of you had experience studying in the United States? Uh, I can't. I'm not sure. I'm going to assume that you haven't. So I'm going to kind of answer this question for you. Um, but just to give you some ideas, some of the examples when you might reach out to a teacher, for example, visiting your professor during their office hours to ask for clarification on some concept that was talked about in the class. If that's the case, if you've reached out to a professor during their office hours, what can you do to make your interaction more successful? Can you imagine what can you do when you visit their office? Well, um, I think your professor will appreciate if you come prepared. How would you do that? Well, you could make some questions in advance so that you don't just go to their office and with no plan. Uh, another example of reaching out to your teacher, your professor, would be emailing them to see if they can connect you with a professional in your field and discuss internship opportunities. If that's the case, your professor will appreciate if you have done some research on your own, that you've gone on the internet and you've looked at companies in the area, so that your conversation is more focused and more productive. Another example of reaching out to your professor is to request a recommendation letter. This would be after you've had, towards the end of your studies so that they've had an opportunity to observe you. But when you request that recommendation letter, um, you shouldn't wait till the last minute to request it. And you should give them enough time so that they can respond. And so it's important to plan ahead and then follow up politely, and give them enough time to write that letter. Or they may not respond and you'll have to find someone else to write the letter. Another example of reaching out to your professor would be to discuss your grades. Maybe you're worried about your grades or you want to ask for clarification on a deadline. Now, in that kind of situation, you don't want to ask them to change your grade or extend the deadline, but you could go and just say that you want to get their advice, and see what they will say. Um, and then another example would be many international students. My experience has been, at least during their first semester, they may have some problems participating in class because English is their second language. And I think, and most of you, English is probably your second language. And if, even if you have a good TOEFL score, it's still going to be challenging for you the first semester. Um, and one thing I wanted to let you know is that, you know, your first semester, there is the possibility that you can drop below full time and still be in maintain your legal status as an F1 international student. But you really need to go and talk to your professor about that. And then your professor can work with the international office at your university to help you adjust your studies so that you can maybe study English part-time while you also take some classes during your first semester. Uh, International students sometimes reach out to their professors when they're feeling homesick or they're feeling overwhelmed during their first semester. Um, and a lot of professors in the United States were international students themselves, and they may be sympathetic to you and give you some good ideas about what you can do to feel like to feel more comfortable while you're on studying in the US. And then another reason would be like if you have a graduate assistantship or you're working while you're studying, a lot of international students, they will struggle to balance their work schedule with their duties as a student and a graduate assistant. So that might be another reason to reach out to your professor and explain, what's going on. And just approach it like you want to get their advice. Don't go into their office and say, you know, uh, of course, come prepared, but listen to what the professor's advice is first. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about cultural expectations in the U.S. And this is where, if somebody disagrees with me, please let me know. But I think in the US, it's important to communicate clearly and directly. And my experience has been that students in Mexico, they maintain a more formal tone. They use in the, calling your professor by his or her first name is not very common. It may even be seen as disrespectful. So informal and direct communication in the U.S. Is more common, and I think that in Mexico it's more formal and hierarchical in Mexico. And then communicating, what was the um, yeah, being respectful, but not overly formal. Okay, so informal doesn't equal disrespect. Um, I think most Mexican professors, they expect students to be more reserved, and challenging ideas or speaking out directly may be discouraged. So in the US, open questioning is encouraged. Um, Take initiative. St- Um, seek help, participate, show interest. Students in Mexico often follow the professor's lead, and they may not be expected to self-direct or initiate academic conversations. Um, but in the US, you're expected to advocate for yourself. The professors are not, they're not going to do that for you. They expect you to speak up and advocate for yourself. Ask questions. And in Mexico, students they may wait to be called upon, and they may avoid drawing too much attention to themselves. But I don't recommend that in the United States. Students are encouraged to engage spontaneously and confidently. Um, so in the US, the classroom, I think, is more dynamic, it's more interactive, it's more student-centered. And in Mexico, in my opinion, it's more lecture-based, more professor-centered. So maybe I'll wait till the end, and then when we're having a Q&A, I'd like to hear your opinion about that, if you agree or disagree with my observation. So based on those ideas of cultural expectations, some tips. You can be in the US, you can be polite and direct at the same time. Okay, so example, I understand this part. Could you please explain it again? Be specific when asking questions. Professors prefer, can you clarify the grading criteria for this section rather than, can you explain this more? That's too vague. You need to be very specific. And asking questions is encouraged. It shows that you're paying attention and that you want to learn. Okay, some unwritten rules for U.S. academia. Attend office hours regularly. You'll find at the beginning of the semester, your professor will give you a syllabus, and he or she will have their office hours there with the times. I recommend that you go regularly, attend those office hours. And because visiting the professor's office shows that you care about your learning. You shouldn't wait for your professor to initiate help. Um, in the US, students are expected to take the first step. Visiting office hours shows that you are motivated and that you're mature. Um, Ask for clarifications on expectations. If you're unsure about assignments, deadlines, or grading, ask early and directly. US professors expect questions like, can you confirm the due date? And this is not seen as annoying, it's a sign of responsibility. Follow up on unanswered emails and be polite in your communication. Um, if you don't get a response right away, wait a few days, then send a kind reminder, just checking in to see if you had a chance to review my last email. In the US, it's normal to follow up after a few days. Um, this maybe in Mexico, this may feel pushy by Mexican standards, but it's appropriate in US culture to follow up, and it's not considered pushy or rude. Um, Show engagement and appreciation. participate in class, ask thoughtful questions, thank your professors for their time and feedback. Participation is expected, even if you're unsure. Okay, so when are these these are some of the uh, key moments for communicating with professors. Uh, First contact, okay? Um, this could happen before, before you arrive to the US, maybe even before you applied, possibly. But in this communication, you're going to be introducing yourself by email before arriving or at the start of the semester. Maybe if you email them before you apply, for example, you might want to focus your email on on your research interests to make sure that the opportunities at that university align with your research interests. So that could be a good topic for you for that communication. Office hours and academic advising. You'll go to the office. You should go regularly to the office. You can talk about what was discussed in class, the course content, assignments. You can seek clarification on difficult concepts. Talk about your academic progress. Maybe you'll go to select your future courses, what you're going to study in the in the next semester, or planning your thesis or your dissertation. There you'll have communication with your faculty in the classroom, of course, and labs, research collaboration. If you have a graduate assistantship, um, you'll be talking to the faculty member, asking them for feedback on papers, poster sessions, conference proposals, discussing roles and expectations as a teaching or research assistant, um, requesting letters of recommendation. You'll talk to your professor about your academic or even personal challenges. Talking to the professor about uh, personal or family issues affecting your coursework, for example. That's okay to talk about that with your professor. Asking for flexibility or support if you have with deadlines, if you need more flexibility, for example. Discussing cultural or linguistic challenges impacting your participation. Also, like I said before, your professor is a kind of professional guide. So you can go to them to get career guidance and mentoring, seek advice on academic or industry career paths, ask about networking opportunities, professional development, request feedback on your CV, your resume, cover letter, in preparing for a job interview. And then thesis, dissertation, supervision, ethics and expectations, clarifying policies about research conduct, plagiarism, citing citations and papers that you're writing, and then follow up and appreciation. Sending a thank you message after a meeting, after you've met with your professor, email them and say thank you, for meeting with me. Certainly thanking them if they write a recommendation letter. Very, very important to show appreciation. So let's this communication. I'm not going to spend too much time on these slides, but you can find a lot of help online, or a lot of this is phrases and things that you can study. And for example, how to write an email to a professor, in the subject line, you should be very clear and specific, not like "Hi," Um, it should be, if it's an email, unless they've told you, that you can call them by your first name, and this is in the beginning when you're first contact, you should say, "Dear Dr. Egnor," or "Dear Professor Egnor." Okay, and then you're going to want to give a brief self-introduction. And then the purpose of your message. So it depends on when you make this first contact. Is it before applying? If it's before applying, maybe you want to talk about is this program a good fit for your research interests? Or after you're accepted to the program, then maybe the purpose of your email is more getting advice or mentorship. Or after you arrive and during your program, you need support. Okay. But always be respectful and clear, and always close with thanks and your name. Okay. I've had international students, for some reason, they don't even sign their name on the email, and I don't know who they are. I certainly see a lot of international students and American students that don't have good email communication, and they use very informal language. Email is a more professional way of communicating. We talked about office hours. This is when you can really connect with your professor and get to know them. But I really recommend that you come prepared before you go. Don't just show up, at least in the beginning, have some questions prepared. And then if there's something you discussed in the office hours, and the professor said, "Oh, I'll email you," you might have to wait maybe even 5 or 7 days before you hear back from them. Okay. Um, Before you email and say, to follow up. And so you need to be respectful, but you also need to be persistent. Okay. Um, this is just a role play. Let's say that you're talking to the professor during the office hours, and you need help with understanding a research method. "Hello, Dr. Lee. I'm struggling with the regression model from class. May I schedule a 15 minutes to ask a few questions during office hours?" "Of course, I appreciate your initiative. Let's meet Tuesday at 2 p.m." Okay, classroom and lab communication. You know, it's going to be difficult in the beginning for many of you because, for one thing, the American students, their English is their native language, and they just speak, without having to even think about it before they speak. Whereas you probably need to think about it, but you have to speak up and ask questions, even if you're unsure. And you need to speak clearly and confidently and participate actively in the class and ask for clarification. If you don't understand, it's okay no one's going to laugh at you or anything. They probably have the same questions. And you can even respectfully disagree with the professor. In fact, I think many professors like that. They like to have a student that has a different opinion. Um, and then come to class, and if you're going, you might want to have some questions in advance, prepared to ask during the class. Okay, just like the office hours. Okay, what to say when you're not sure, you don't understand. This is in the classroom. Could you clarify? Excuse me, Professor Egner, could you clarify that part again? Excuse me, I'm not sure I fully understand. May I ask a follow-up? Um, or if you disagree, "I see your point, though I've read a different perspective. Could I share it?" And then requesting a recommendation letter. I think 2 to 4 weeks ahead, you should be asking. The more time you can give the professor, the better. And in your email to the professor, you should explain why you want a letter of recommendation. Is it for a scholarship? Is it for a job? Or and you need to attach your CV, explain what your goals are, and then and thank the professor, even if they decline. Okay, here's a sample email before and after. And what do you think? Can you see the difference in the email? In the Yeah, in the before, if you look at it, the before version, it's very, hi, I need a recommendation letter. Can you do it? It sounds very rude to me, abrupt, it's too informal. Hi, that's not appropriate. Uh, you should start with something respectful like Dear Dr. Egnor, and then a warm opening like, I hope you are well. Because in the US, we tend to be, polite, direct, yet friendly. We want friendly communication. Also, this email, it's too vague. I need, I need a recommendation letter. You need to be more clear. Say something like, I'm applying for a scholarship. Uh, I would, I would, would you be willing to write a letter for me? And you need to show humility and respect for the professor's time. The other thing is, in the before version of this email, there's no explanation or background. Uh, you need to provide some context, attach your CV. Um, this will make it easier for the professor to write a strong letter for you. And then finally, this email does not, the before email, there's no thank you. Um, in the after, it ends with appreciation. Thanks very much. So this is just an example, but you have a year to get ready. So I think one of the things you could do is, if you're not comfortable using this kind of language, professional language, uh, which is used in the business world as well as in universities with your professors, you should study this and be prepared. Uh, if you don't already have this background. Okay, so as an international student, maybe from a low-income background, or maybe you're the first in your family to go to graduate school or even go to a university. It's natural to feel out of place sometimes. You might look around, when you're on this campus in the United States and say, do I really belong here? But let me tell you something. Your perspective as a Mexican graduate student at a US university, your perspective adds value, okay, to the educational experience of all the students on that campus and the professors. Your story matters. Your perspective, your background, your culture, these are assets, not obstacles. Now, professors aren't going to fully understand your context. They have lots of students. They don't really know you very well. Um, but that's not, and but that's not because they don't care. Uh, but they have not lived your experience, and so you can help them see you can help them see you more clearly. Not just You're not just your GPA or your TOEFL or the application, that maybe the professor has seen that, but they don't really know you. They don't know you as a full person with valuable insights that you can share in the classroom. For example, in a classroom discussion, if you notice that the discussion is missing an international point of view, share your perspective. I think a lot of the students and the professor will be very interested to hear, uh, how something is done in Mexico versus the United States. Just like I shared with you at the beginning of this presentation, and I hope maybe we can have a little discussion about this if we have time, some of these cultural comparisons. But I think these cultural comparisons really enrich the classroom experience for all the students. Um, and so if there's an opportunity to make a comparison with how things are done in Mexico, bring that up. These are moments when your voice adds depth to the conversation. Okay, advocating for yourself. In the US, professors expect you to take the initiative. Okay, they're not going to approach you. You have to take the initiative. You have to advocate for yourself. This might feel uncomfortable at first, especially if you're coming from an educational culture like I think exists in Mexico, where it's more common to wait for the professor to offer help or guidance. In an American graduate, in a US graduate program, it's not only okay, it's expected that you will speak up for your needs. For example, if you're unsure about an assignment or a deadline, or how much time something will take, ask for clarification during office hours or even in the classroom. Professors appreciate it when students care enough to make sure that they understand. If you're struggling with a class or a concept, ask for academic help. That might mean going to office hours, requesting a meeting, or even asking for a tutor. And most universities have like writing centers and they have tutors, and it's part of the tuition that you've paid for. So you use those resources on the campus, and and your faculty member can help you to connect with those resources. If you have a disability or another circumstance that affects how you learn, you can request reasonable accommodations. American universities have systems in place to support you, but you have to let them know what you need. I it's incredible what the resources that U.S. universities have. So don't assume that those services or those resources don't exist because they probably do, and your professor can help you with that. And then the key is to stay respectful and assertive. Don't apologize for needing help. You deserve support, and it's okay to ask for it. Okay, so one thing to ask think about this question. What strengths do you bring that professors might not initially see? Think about that question, and when you come to the United States, be, you know, have that in the back of your mind when you're talking to the professor because they need to know about these strengths. They may not know that you have you have a lot of family responsibilities in Mexico. Maybe you were very involved in even raising your brothers and sisters, and you have a lot of experience balancing school and work with family responsibilities. So you've developed a very strong sense of responsibility and resilience. And professors may not see that right away, how much you've had to manage behind the scenes to stay on top of your studies. And once they know that, they're really going to have a lot of respect for you. Um, or if you grew up in a bilingual, bicultural environment, how lucky you are. You bring a different way of thinking to the classroom discussions, your knowledge of Spanish and English and two cultures. Some professors may not realize how valuable that is, and how valuable your perspective is. So you have to do some advocating for yourself. And and they may not understand how motivated you are to succeed because you have so many family members in Mexico, friends, and you carry their hopes and their dreams for you. And that's a powerful motivation for you to work hard and succeed. And professors may not see how deeply committed you are to success. So think about this, because I'm sure that all of you have a lot of strengths that your professors are not going to know about unless you tell them. And you can do that during the office hours. These are some tools and resources. I'm sure Education USA office, they offer this kind of support. University writing centers, the International Student Office is that's where I always worked. I helped international students, as director of international programs. And then there's a lot of, I mentioned like sample email templates, learning phrases for asking questions and expressing doubt. These kinds of things you can find. Maybe they're part of an English course that you're taking, but it needs to be more like formal, this kind of language, English language that's for a business situation or an academic situation. Okay, so I think the final thing here is, and I think this is very important and sometimes overlooked, uh, that in the United States, it's very important to build a strong, long-term relationship with faculty members. And these kinds of long-term relationships with faculty can really help you succeed not only academically, but also professionally, because that's really your focus is on getting this education, graduating, and then getting into some kind of career, especially if it's a master's degree. Um, it's different with an undergraduate degree, you could go do something for a year or two after you graduate. But with graduate education, usually you go right into a career after you graduate, and your professor can be so helpful even years later after you graduate. So, how do you do that? How do you establish these long-term relationships? Well, one is go to the office, go to their office hours regularly, not just one time, but throughout the semester and get to know them. Let them know who you are. um, in the US, professors expect you to take the initiative. If you don't do that, they think that you don't care. So don't be reserved, don't be embarrassed or anything. This is expected of you to do this. Um, and so don't go to their office hours if it's just a problem. Go there even if it's just to say hi. Um, it's an invitation to build a one-on-one relationship with that professor. You can ask questions, discuss ideas, or simply check in and see how the course is going. Um, it may feel unfamiliar at first if you're used to a more formal hierarchical setting, like maybe you have in Mexico. But in the US, it's very normal and it's a welcome part of student life. Yeah, the professor may even invite you to go after office hours, have a coffee or something at some point. Express appreciation. Professors work hard and they deeply care about their students. A simple thank you after a lecture is very powerful. An email to say how much you enjoyed a topic, acknowledging their help can go a long way. And in many cultures, including Mexico, we tend to show appreciation with warmth and respect. So don't be afraid to express that in the United States too. The Mexican heart, warm and respectful, is also a very good thing in the United States too. It helps build rapport and it shows maturity and then share your progress or goals with the professor. Over time, you want to share your academic interests, your research goals, your professional dreams. Let them know about that. This not only helps the professor to better understand you, It also allows them to guide you more effectively. For example, they might recommend a conference or an internship or write you a strong letter of recommendation later. And then stay in touch, even after the course ends, even after you graduate, stay in touch with that professor. Relationships with faculty don't have to end when the class ends. If a professor makes an impact on you, or if you're working in a related field, stay in touch. Send a quick update, ask for advice, or invite them to your thesis defense or your graduation. In the US, these long-term connections can lead to mentorship, collaboration, and career opportunities. So these are the key takeaways, I think, from my presentation. Be proactive, communicate early. I would send an email before you, even possibly before you apply or after you apply, before you arrive. Communicate early, clearly, be respectful. Faculty are a resource, not just authority figures. Ask questions. It shows strength, not weakness. Advocate for yourself confidently. Build relationships over time. And your voice matters. Your story matters in U.S. academia. So that is, well, and then finally, and most importantly, come and study in West Virginia. Okay, so thank you very much.
All right. So if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat. Okay. And I'll be really glad to ask those questions for you in case you have those questions.
Okay.
No one?
Uh,
Sure.
vamos a hablar en español.
Okay.
Quiero practicar mi español.
Perfect. Entonces las preguntas van a ser en español. Okay.
Está bien. Si quieres preguntarme en español o japonés también.
All
Uh,
right.
¿Alguien pueden hablar japonés?
Okay, we have a question, Mariana
Oh,
Vidres.
okay. Okay.
I do not speak in I do not speak Japanese, but I'm learning German, so I can try my
Oh,
best in German. So thank you so much, Clark, for the fantastic presentation. I think our grantees are more than happy, and they will, like reply and put into practice everything that you just said. But my question is going to be in Spanish for you to practice.
okay.
Are you ready?
Okay, estoy listo
Perfecto, perfecto.
por tu pregunta.
Muchas gracias, Clark. Mi pregunta tiene que ver con las personas que ya se están preparando y ya están haciendo un proceso, un application process.
Ujú.
Em, ¿Tú qué les aconsejarías concretamente sobre cómo, por ejemplo, preguntar por funding? O sea, si hay funding
Ah,
available in the
okay,
department, or maybe if the professor, has,
right,
like an opportunity in their labs or their
right,
departments, so
right,
they can
right.
ask and apply for that funding. How would you say they could, approach
Yeah.
professors?
Well, I th- I think there's a lot more funding for graduate study than undergraduate study. And I know in West Virginia that um, especially many of our universities have graduate assistantships. They have other ways of helping international students financially. For example, I was talking to West Liberty University yesterday, and I told them I'm going to be talking to Mexican students tomorrow about um, communication with faculty. And by the way, do you have any funding for graduate study? And they said that they give free housing to pretty much all of their graduate students. Now, I think the smaller universities in West Virginia, at least, they don't have a lot of graduate programs, but they really want more international students and because they want the diversity. And so they do have this kind of funding. Bigger, famous universities, maybe it's more competitive. But I think that if and I know you want to apply to Harvard and University of Michigan and these other schools, but uh, in West Virginia, West Liberty University, Fairmont State University, Shepherd University, um, um, Concord University. I mean, you've never heard of these universities. They do have some online, they do have some graduate programs. They have to be in person, because you can't study if the courses are all online. International students are not eligible for those programs, but they do have some. For example, West Liberty. She told me they have biology and exercise science and some other programs. So I would look at if you can find your program that you want at a smaller university, public university, and there's a professor there that shares your research interests. They might there might be a better potential to get funding. Um, so, and I think that your chances of they'll take you more seriously if you have applied and been admitted. And many universities, they don't have an application fee. Like most of our universities in West Virginia don't have an application fee. So, and the application is very similar for all the universities. So apply to a lot of universities. And then if you've applied, it's going to be more, it's going to be when you communicate with a professor and say, I applied and I was admitted, they're going to be more receptive to helping you with funding. If you emailed, contact them and say, I'm thinking about applying, I'm not sure, they may not even respond to you because they have so many international students contacting them. And so I would suggest if there's no application fee, why not apply and get admitted? And then that's going to help you probably um, get responses from the university about funding. They'll see that you're more serious. And of course, I think if you mentioned that you got this scholarship from Mexico, that's also going to help too, because they know that you guys have been selected for this prestigious scholarship. So they're going, oh, these are very bright students. And mention your background about, if you are from a low income family or first generation, mention that. That can also be useful. So does that answer your
Yeah.
question?
Yeah, you should be an Education USA advisor. We always say that to our advisees, and
Yeah.
it was super clear. Thank you. But we have more questions, right, Analcia?
We
Yeah.
do.
I'm sorry, I'm not speaking Spanish. I could do it, but I don't want to. My head is in English right now, so
Don't worry. All
sorry.
right, we have a hand raised. Maricruz, please.
Thank you. I have some friends studying in the US, and they all recommend that it's better to avoid telling like personal information to our advisor or our advisors or hypothetical advisors. I'm thinking, I'm talking about life advisors. So I don't know what you think about that advice because, well, they say that when you talk about personal information, they can worry about you as a student, but then tend to um, accept less international students because they see that they come with those kind of problems. I don't know. They say
Hmm.
something like that.
I don't know. I think as far as sharing personal information about your family or or your experience in Mexico. It depends on if it's after you've been in the US and you have a relationship with a professor, you're going to get to know each other just like you do. Um, it's a relationship, so it's okay. But now, if you're talking about before you, like when you're applying to the university, that might be different. You don't need to share. You don't need to share a lot when you're applying. But after you've started your studies in the US and you've started going to the professor's office hours and you're getting to know them, I think it's perfectly okay to share about what's going on in your life. You know, I think they appreciate that. So I
Thank
don't
you.
know. I don't know. Maybe I don't understand and your friends, the context of that they're saying.
Thank you.
I see a question here. How
Yeah.
can one strike a balance between showing academic initiative and maintaining a respectful attitude without seeming overly insistent? Okay. Um, how can one strike a balance? Okay. Well, I think that without seeming overly insistent, how about I can maintain a respectful attitude. Hmm. I don't, I guess that's why it's a balance. It is a, kind of a something that you need to practice. Um, hmm, that's kind of hard to answer, really. I guess it's something that, in every professor is going to be different as well. So just like any relationship, you're not going to do, you're going to do, this is going to be incremental. It's going to be something step by step as you develop the relationship with the professor. I think you'll find that balance, especially, and it depends on your interpersonal skills as a communicator, just in general, reading their gestures and that sort of thing to know if you've crossed a boundary with them. But I think, a relationship with the professor is going, over time, they will become almost like a friend, possibly, depending on your connection with them. So I would just, you start out with a more formal tone, especially when you're contacting them for the first time. And then after they've gotten to know you in the classroom and you regularly attend their office hours, I think that you will see, you'll understand where the boundaries are and know what you can't do and what you can do, just like any personal relationship you have. I'm sorry, that may not be the best answer to the question, but
Don't worry. We have one more in the
okay.
chat, which it's kind of like in the first
Oh,
contact. It's how many months in advance do you recommend to
uh,
contact the professors before applying to the school? You mentioned it would be more
uh,
efficient once you applied, but
yeah.
what would be before applying?
Um, I really think it could be, when you are really doing the research, I think you could contact them anytime, wait till the academic year begins because a lot of professors they're not working or they're doing, they're on, they're not at the university during the summer. They might be working on research projects or doing something else. So may not be a good time to email them now during the summer, but once the academic year begins in September, I think it's okay to contact them. But I would look at the purpose of your communication. Um, if it has to do with like, is this the program for you? Is this going to fit your research and academic interests? But really, you should try to do as much homework on your own by getting to know the program. And then after you have exhausted everything you can learn on your own, then try to reach out to the professor if you think it makes sense. Um, I don't know if I would be asking them about GAs and that sort of thing. But I think it's okay to ask them, like you're trying to determine, is this the school I want to apply to? Because it has the program I want to study in. It has the research focus that I want to pursue. And you've exhausted and you've looked at it. You've already done as much research as you could do by yourself looking at the website. Then I think you could reach out to the professor. Hopefully they'll respond to you. Yeah. So I think anytime during this upcoming academic year.
Perfect. We have one hand raised, one more question in the chat, and we will close the session. Okay, Joanna?
Sure, thank you. My question is also on first contact emails. So there are many templates available, online, and most of them say, "Oh, you should choose 3 of their papers, read them, and in the email discuss them." But I'm sure that the professors receive so many emails, like with similar templates and structure. So how can we make it that email stand out? Or even be like if you include, for example, a portfolio or something like that, a link to that in your email, that could help the professor also like connect you with other professors that might be a good fit. So how can we do that email like stand out from
Right.
the other ones that they receive?
Okay, well, that's a good question. Yeah, I don't know how many emails they are receiving actually from students. I I don't think that I don't think it's as many as you think it is. Uh, if you are emailing them, and I think a lot of those emails, they may not be very specific um, to what the professor is teaching or their research. So I think if you have really done your homework and you've studied the program and what the research interests are, and you mention that at the very beginning, you'll get their attention because you have done your homework and you know like even looking at what the professor's research is himself, like looking at their citations, looking at their journal articles they've written or presentations they've given at a conference. If you somehow connect with their research interests and you've got their attention, I think. It because I think they probably get a lot of very vague emails and they don't even respond to those because it's just kind of a waste of their time. So just don't waste their time, don't just email. Like I'm sure there's students just emailing hundreds of people, and it's a template. It's not really tailored to that professor. So uh I think they'll read it if it's personalized to them and it's specific to their interests.
Okay, thank you. And also, as you said, it's important to apply first and then email.
Yeah, and let them know that you are part of this program with Education USA, because it is a very prestigious program, and I think they like that. They want that kind of prestigious students who are part of a prestigious program like that. Now, if it's in West Virginia, if you contact a professor in West Virginia, you copy me and say, I attended Dr. Clark Egnor's webinar and and then I'll follow up even, and you will get a response, okay? If it's in West Virginia.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Okay.
Excellent. And our last question in the chat is, how does the cultural or academic context of the professor's country influence the way this initial communication is established?
Oh, wow, that's an interesting question. You mean like, well, I mean, if they're Mexican, you know, that might give you an advantage, actually. I've known Mexican professors who are Mexican American professors, but they were born in Mexico, and and maybe they went to university in Mexico. They did their doctoral studies or their master's degree or in Mexico, so they have a academic network in Mexico. They are going to be interested in you, I think. Um, that would be a positive thing. I can't imagine any negative things. I mean, there's international professors and there are U.S. Professors born in the U.S. But even if they're born in the U.S., you don't know if maybe they have international connections as well. Just because they were born in another country doesn't, like me, I was born here in West Virginia, but I'm very interested in Mexico and Japan, and you know, I've learned those languages, and I have so you don't. But I would I think more importantly than their what country they were born in is their academic and professional experience, which you could probably find on their website. You know, their web, you'll see like what journal articles they've written, conferences, presentations they've presented. um, that's going to be more, I think, more interesting to them if you share the same research interests or background than like that you're from Mexico. But I do know Mexican-born professors here in West Virginia I've known who have tried to, you know, they try to hire get students from Mexico, and they are like they get graduate assistantships and work in their lab and that sort of thing. So that's kind of common too. I think it has more to do with the network, you know, because they're doing even research with professors in Mexico because they have that network established.
Perfect. All right. So thank you so much, Dr. Clark Egner, for your time and all the knowledge that you just shared with us. Okay, and in the chat, you also have like a link. I'm not sure if you can copy it. It's our SSI registration in case you don't have an Education USA advisor assigned to you yet, and you want to continue like start the process with us. You can find us there. Okay, and we really appreciate your time again, Dr. Clark Egner, and we hope to see you very soon in another webinar or in a visit here in one of our centers. All right.
Okay, muchas gracias a
De
todo.
nada.
Thank
All right.
you.
And the opportunity funds grantees, can you please stay for 5 minutes in case you didn't
Okay.
see chat? Okay. Thank
Okay,
you,
bye.
Clark.
Bye
Dr.
bye
Clark.
bye bye bye.
Bye.
Thank you.